it's possible and someone else has done it, so can you. It's just a matter of what steps you need to take and, how long over time you're going to give yourself to get this stuff done.
Welcome back to another episode of Intrepidus Podcast with your hosts, Dan and Anthony, episode number 36 with Tave Morales from Onyx. Welcome to the show, Tave.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So Onyx, pretty broad brand name. Tell us a little about what Onyx does.
So we work on cars, pretty much anything cosmetic. We originally started out as a detailing company, but then we kind of over time have overtaken that and moved to more of a custom shop, and we do all kinds of stuff from custom wraps, PPF, window tinting. We still do a ton of detailing, of course, but pretty much anything cosmetic you could think of, we do it.
So where did the evolution come from? Was that a need, necessity, or just opportunity?
I think, the detailing side of the business, that's more of a necessity for people. People always need their cars cleaned and detailed, so we started off doing that, but then we saw a demand for more custom work. People want to change the color of their cars, people want to change the wheels, people want window tint, so we slowly moved into a full-fledged customization shop over time.
Okay, so you're just getting asked, hey, could you do this? You kept saying no. I'm sick of saying no. I'm going to start saying yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was more of like, not that I wasn't comfortable with doing these things, but they're not easy tasks. So I remember like the first time someone was like, hey, can you wrap my car? I'm like, I would love to, but it's not something I know how to do. But over time, we just, I take a lot of time to just learn new things. That's one thing that I do. I put in a ton of hours just learning new stuff. The business is always evolving with cars. There's always new stuff coming out. So I definitely spend a lot of time learning how to do new things. And another thing I've learned how to do over the years is recruit people that are good at certain things. So, bringing the right people in and being able to do, more for customers is definitely a big thing.
So I've seen a lot of people I know use your shop. Let's talk about some of the types of cars and types of customers that come to you, because I think a lot of wrap guys are like, oh, this truck, this work truck, this. You specialize more in like an elegant style delivery, higher end delivery. Even if the car isn't super expensive, you make sure that your work from, let's say, a lower end car to a Bentley is going to be the same. But let's talk about the type of clientele that you specialize in and the type of vehicles that like you guys really do a lot of work on, like Lamborghinis and stuff, a lot of angles. But you guys
Correct.
can cover this.
100%. I mean, we have a very diverse client base. A lot of our clients with the higher end stuff, majority of them are business owners, believe it or not. A lot of people ask me all the time, like, what do these people do that have these Rolls Royces and Lambos and Ferraris? And I'm like, well, believe it or not, a lot of them are business owners, and they started off from humble beginnings. Not everybody that has a Lambo or a Rolls is, a surgeon or a lawyer. Of course we have those, but a lot of these guys, they're very cool. They're small business owners. They're good people. We work on all kinds of vehicles. We'll do daily drivers for people, on the lower to mid tier and all the way up to, high end exotics, Lambos, SVJs, STOs, Ferraris, Rolls Royces, you name it. We've done boats, jet skis, helicopters, all kinds of stuff.
Pretty badass.
Yeah.
Helicopters, huh?
Motorcycles, anything with an engine. If you want to,
How do you get a helicopter in there? That's
well, we didn't do it at our place. We actually had to go to a hangar up in Morristown, and we did
I'm curious about this helicopter. Exactly what did you do?
So we did a full custom wrap job on a helicopter.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was like a six passenger helicopter. It was actually for a friend of mine's company. He partnered with some guy. They do like charters, helicopter charters, and they
Not
bought
a big business right now.
Yeah, they bought a helicopter.
Not after that fall last week.
Yeah, no, that's a little crazy. Me personally, I'm scared of helicopters. I don't really want to go on them. Planes, I'm good with.
I did a helicopter ride out in Hawaii, like through the mountains. That's fucking
probably
badass.
sick.
Would you do it today though?
Fuck yeah, I don't give a shit.
Listen,
I've crashed on a motorcycle 100 miles an hour. I still ride a motorcycle.
So you're not scared.
You crash in a car, whatever, dude. I mean, you got to pick up your pieces.
Shit
I
happens.
ain't crashing a helicopter. You're not walking away though.
That's okay. You're still having fun, enjoying life.
You're gonna go out having fun.
I won't skydive.
I've done that.
I won't do that shit.
My thing about skydiving is I don't want to be strapped to somebody else.
I didn't
I'm
either.
good. You
Nuts
give me
to
a
butts. You don't want that.
Nah, you give me a parachute, I'll jump out the plane. I'll make sure I pull that cord, but I'm a little iffy about being strapped to somebody.
When you're 30, when you're whatever it is, to 14,000 feet in the air, you'll be thankful that the person's strapped to you. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm good. I'm not doing that shit. So let's talk about. We were talking a little bit off the set. You're 29 years old.
Yes.
Young hustler. I love it. I
Just
started.
turned 29.
I got involved in business when I was 17. So I love
Awesome.
seeing entrepreneurs who are young. You talked about 9 years back being in business for 9 years. You were going to be an electrician. You talked about a great story about a rental of a unit. Let's talk about that so people can understand how you didn't give up through that time of adversity, but you took a different approach, which I think led you to where you are today.
Right. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, I started out doing something completely different. When I was in high school, my whole thing was, all right, I'm going to graduate. And by the way, I hated school.
We all did.
I was not good in school. I mean, that's a common thing with entrepreneurs. Yeah. We never really wanted to, be told what to do or follow directions. But yeah, I wanted to do something completely different. So when I was about 17, 18, my whole thing was, all right, I'm gonna get into the electrical trade. I'm gonna get my license, get some hours in, and do what I need to do. And I want to start my own electrical company. So I was doing that for probably about 2 years. I was working on generators. I did a lot of warehouse lighting, commercial mostly, but we did a lot of residential too. And I was always obsessed with cars and pretty much anything with a motor. I've always loved motorsports. So the car stuff was like a hobby for me. It's just something I enjoyed doing. I didn't really love doing electrical work when I was in that field. So I got to a point where I was like, maybe this is not what I want to do, because I'm big on doing like what makes you happy and what you enjoy. And if you're doing something and you're dreading it every day, no matter how much money you can make, you're not going to be happy. Yeah. So I switched gears a little bit and I'm like, all right, I want to get into the car business because this is what I'm passionate about. It wasn't really about dollar signs for me, although everybody, of course, is in business to make money. It just helped that I was, passionate about it and I love doing that shit.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about, like, you started off in a garage, you were renting a garage, and then the whole trailer transformation now to the size of building that you have now.
Yeah, so at first when I started my business, I rented a small garage at a gas station. It was about $750 a month. And I would work there after hours on the weekends when I was doing electrical work, Monday through Friday pretty much. So any extra time that I had, I'd be in the shop, trying to get friends and people that I knew to come in and bring their car in so we could work on it. It got to a point where I was just funding the shop off the money that I was making from, my full-time job. And I was kind of just draining myself. I was just spinning wheels. And I remember there was days in the winter where I'm just sitting in there on like a Saturday and I'm like, I wish somebody would just bring their car in here so I can just get another job done so I can be productive. And it got to a point where I couldn't really float it anymore. So I ended up leaving. Couldn't pay the rent anymore. It was just too much for me. I was probably like 19 at the time, maybe 20. So then I had to think of another way that I could service people, but have it be a little more cost effective for me, and not kill me. So I bought a 5x8 trailer. I had a little SUV. So I started a mobile service pretty much, where obviously you'd go to people's houses and detail their cars in the driveway and stuff like that. And I met a lot of cool people like that, so I'm thankful that I decided to take that route, because I met a lot of guys that have some really cool cars, and that kind of really helped me get my foot in the door, and just allowed me to snowball into what we're doing now. So fast forward to today, now we have a shop over in Freehold. It's about 9,000 square feet, so it's a lot bigger than the little one-bay garage that I was renting when I was about 19.
You guys are always packed in there. I see you always packed. You always got stuff going on.
Yeah, we're usually pretty full. I mean, we like to move quick and efficient, but we're always bringing in work. Like, I'm the type of person, if you call me and you're like, yo, I got a car, I need this project done, but I need it done next week. A lot of people be like, oh, well, we're booked out until this day or that day. You can, we can schedule you for 3 weeks out. I'm like, how can we get this car in and get it done and just turn it around? So,
Love it.
We try to bang stuff out.
I want to go back into one of the things you said, and it also include some of the conversations that we've had before we started recording here. But you said that you constantly learning. You're constantly learning about the business.
Yep.
The industry is ever evolving. It changes daily, which obviously, you know, a lot of technology gets rolled into vehicles today. So I'm sure
Right.
that you have to keep up with the times there. But you also said before we started recording, you have about 8 employees.
Yeah, there's 8 of us, including me is 9.
Okay, so there's 9 of you guys, but you know you're at the forefront. That is your job as the owner, the CEO, right?
Right.
To be ahead of everybody else in the knowledge category.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my question is, how do you transfer that down?
I mean, I think it's just being a solid leader and pulling the team rather than being in the back pushing. You know, the leader's always in the front. So it's up to me to ultimately, you know, figure out new solutions for new issues, because every day there's always new issues. And there's always stuff to learn, like you said. A lot of people think that if you're not sitting in a classroom, you can't learn. It's like I make it, you know, my obligation to learn new stuff. If it's not specifically related to the cars, it's about business and, you know, managing people and just managing life in general. Like I read a lot, I consume a lot, so I like to stay ahead of the game. When it comes to actual practical, you know, learning on stuff that we're working on, I try to take time to figure it out myself, and then I try to reiterate that to the guys, and I have them practice certain things, or, you know, if a new material comes out or a new way of doing something comes out, I like to show them and just say, hey, you know, you're a professional, but I want to give you this and show you what I learned. Like, let me know what you think of it. Let me know your input. And also there's sometimes, you know, where the guys are figuring things out on their own and they're teaching me something new, which is cool because, you know, that's important as a boss and as a leader. You know, you don't know everything. And, I think a lot of people get hung up on thinking that they have to teach everybody something rather than, you know, they can learn something from their own guys. So we kind of bounce off each other and we teach each other stuff, which is really cool.
I love your leadership approach. So not many people think this way. So we just you talked about boss and leader. I don't think you're a boss. I think you're a leader. So there's a difference between a boss and a leader.
100%.
A boss is a dictator, and a boss wants the, you know, the army to fight while he sits back and, you know, points. But
100%.
you talked about you learning things, you know, getting ahead of the game, you know, pulling them up, being the driving force of your business and leading by example. This wasn't the beginning you, though. This is not a way you're born. This isn't a way you just start thinking.
Right.
What shifted you to realize that maybe did you have employees one time that you were actually being a boss and you weren't able to keep employees, or, you know, did you find yourself like, you know, not getting to production? What turned you into the leader versus the boss?
I think just life experience in general. I don't think it was one specific thing. I think it's also like the way that I grew up and the influences that I had in my life. Thank God I had a lot of people who, you know, played that role of a leader versus a boss. And I've also seen people who are the boss, not the leader, and how it, you know, doesn't exactly work out in their favor. So I always just found that, you know, it's a better approach to try to pull the team rather than be in the back and, you know, just throw out commands and, you know, try to make people, you know, do whatever you're telling them to do. It's just like a whole different approach. Like a lot of people think that when you're a business owner, you know, it's easy. You're just telling people what to do. But in reality, to really be successful, you have to be a leader and you have to lead by example, and you have to show people how certain things are done. You know, I'm in the shop all day, every day. You know, I'm there Monday through Sunday. Like this past week, I was in there every single day. Saturday, Sunday, I'll come in at 6 in the morning and I'll be there till 10, 11 at night if that's what's needed. And I think that carries over and it shows everybody else in the shop like, okay, you know, he's put in the work and, you know, doing all the little stuff that needs to be done, rather than, you know, somebody that comes in and they're at the shop for 3-4 hours and they're like, okay, you guys do X, Y, and Z, whatever's in the schedule today, I'm going home or I'm going to play golf or shit like that. It's like, I'm in there with the guys, you know, all day, every day. So I think that definitely carries over. And, you know, they see that, you know, it's about leading by example and putting in the work.
Yeah, I think there's a large difference in a gap, but people don't often talk about between IQ and EQ, right? And I think that the mass majority of successful entrepreneurs actually have a higher EQ than IQ. And in most cases, you'll see someone with high IQ and a low EQ who's more so of a boss, like a dictator.
Right.
Do this, do this, do this, which, sometimes comes with its own set of successes, but you have
Right.
a different approach. However, I disagree with you. I do think it's innate. I do think that Tave was born with this. I do think that.
Now that he said that, yes, but I think that it's developed over time because
Oh, for sure.
I
right?
think
You can strengthen
It's
any
definitely
muscle.
developed.
I think, and I could probably be right, that his beginning employees, it was a lot different than his employees now. He was pushing guys to do more when maybe he didn't know as much, and he wasn't pushing as a leader because you develop leadership skills in anything. You can't become a head coach unless you know the game, right?
Yep.
So like he may have always been someone who's powerful and been able to deliver and knew that he was going to be unique in his space, but he wasn't the leader he was today 9 years ago. And he had some flaws that he had to work on because he's seen some things that weren't working for him and he had to change them. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
I think Tave commands authority and doesn't demand it. And I think that's
Well, that's what
big
leaders
majority,
do.
right?
Yeah, that's what all leaders do.
Good leaders.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
leaders.
some people who call themselves leaders and
Yeah, I
they're
agree with
dictators,
that.
they're not leaders.
I agree with that.
Yeah. But that leads me to my question, right? We kind of got off topic here because I told you I disagree with you and you're about to smack me. But aside from that,
It's okay to disagree.
no, it's yeah, it always is. The thing that we talked about earlier before we even got sat down and started recording here was, how difficult it is to hire people you trust and to develop that trust. And
100%.
a lot of entrepreneurs or sole proprietors that come onto the show, that's their big next step. It's the hardest thing for them to overcome, to hire someone that they think that they have to replicate themselves. And you said it best. You said, I just find people that are better at certain things than I am.
Right.
Is this something that you just knew, or did you have to let go at some point? And how did you do so?
I mean, I've learned over time that you can't do everything yourself. A lot of business owners, they burn themselves out trying to be, the master at everything. I don't try to be that. I'm more of like a curator, and I try to bring in the people that are the best at what they do. And I'm more of like the orchestrator at this point. I mean, it's hard finding people that can do this type of work. It's not, just basic general labor, mindless work. It's pretty intense sometimes. There's a lot of details. There's a lot of margin for error with certain things. So, hiring the right people and making sure that you have the right team is definitely important. But like I was telling you earlier, a lot of the guys that we have on our team, I've either known them for a long time, or they've, been doing this for long enough to where I can put trust in them. Now, that doesn't mean that, they're not always growing and evolving, because everybody is. No one really knows how to do everything perfect in this business. But I think over time, you learn to just put trust in people. And when they know that you trust them to do the job the right way, it kind of puts them at ease and lets them, do what's necessary just to get things done without that extra pressure. So I think it's like letting the guys know, or letting your employees know that you trust them to do the right thing, and not really sitting over their shoulder and, pressing them about every little detail. It's kind of just like let go and see how things go. And usually it'll work out if you take that approach.
Another very difficult thing for people not to do is micromanage.
Yeah,
It seems like
micromanage.
you've
Yeah,
been able
sometimes
to-
micromanaging is counterproductive, because
Absolutely.
if you
Agreed.
have people and you give them tasks and responsibility, and they know what their responsibility is, but you're constantly breathing down their neck, now it makes them, a little uneasy, and they might not be able to do their job the right way. So it's more of just letting them do their thing and just trusting that it'll work out.
Or letting them fail, right? Because
Right.
that's how you learned.
That's how you learn,
came
through
through
failure.
failure. You learned. You never did that thing again.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you're taking that away from them if you don't allow
yeah,
them.
we
to
do
so.
plenty of things wrong. It's just like any business. You're gonna fuck up. You're gonna have mistakes, but I think all the guys know that the way that I am is, I'm not mad if we make mistakes. It's just, if we make a mistake, we just need to learn from that mistake and move
Come up with a
forward and just
solution.
try to avoid that, from this point forward. So it's like when something goes wrong, it's like, of course it's frustrating. Anybody who has a business and a job doesn't go right or something gets messed up, it usually costs you money at the end of the day. Costs you money and time. But I think the important thing is just learning from the mistakes and just learning how to navigate and move forward. This way you don't constantly make the same mistake,
Correct.
because then you're growing.
So let's talk about your association, because you just told us before, like one of your good friends is one of our recent guests, and you guys weren't at a caliber of life 10 years ago that you are now.
Right.
And you weren't hanging with the people that you were hanging 10 years ago that you're hanging with now. How has your association and the people that you spend your time with, the people you collaborate with, the people who you literally talk to about growth, how has that changed in the last 9 years?
I think it's just the way that I've grown as a person, as an individual, and the things that I've just wanted for myself in life. I kind of moved away from people who aren't on the same level as me and just gravitated towards people who are on the same level. So it's like when you set out to, build something and, you're focused and you're grinding all day, every day, you're going to come across other people who are on the same wavelength as you. And I think it's something that, it brings you guys together, as friends, as, associates.
Helps you evolve.
Yeah, and it helps you evolve, and you guys just bounce energy off each other. And I think that's important, is like when you're an entrepreneur, especially when you're young, you need to surround yourself with people who are on the same mission as you, or people who have done what you're looking to do. Maybe it might be a completely different industry, but I think you can benefit from surrounding yourself with like-minded people, obviously.
That's what-
Drive meets drive.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's your biggest thing, right? Mindset.
It's like
you
steel
can try to-
sharpens steel. So,
Right,
you
exactly.
hang around people who are, going somewhere, and that's what you want to do. It's going to benefit both of you.
Yeah, the conversations that you have, I mean, it's enlightening. It's
different.
empowering, right? You leave a good conversation with 4 people, like a mastermind group. I used to always leave like just energized, like ready
Right.
to take over
Yeah, there
the
was a few
goddamn
good
world.
of us in,
Yeah,
the, in the
because that-
mastermind group, and we would spur. we met through a mastermind group, and we decided that we were going to do a podcast because we didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
We knew each other through somebody else
That's
who
awesome.
introduced us. That I invited to my mastermind. I said, it's not for me, but call this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he came. He had
it.
no idea who anyone was. And then this was like 2018 or something.
Yeah, it was a while
A
ago.
long time ago. And
17,
we just
18, yeah.
started building, a relationship up together, became partners, and
That's
did
awesome.
things. And what's crazy is I talk about like
That was 2019, actually.
he's actually the opposite of the normal realm of the life of what really happens in entrepreneurship. Like all the kids he grew up with, they're all entrepreneurs and they all still hang out.
That's
but
cool.
But that's not the vibe that usually happens to 95% of
That's
people.
that's not common.
Right.
No,
So
I
like
got lucky.
not
your
common.
friends are
I got
your
lucky.
friends because geography put you there, right? Like
Right.
you landed in a school, you lived on a street because your parents moved there, and
Yep.
your neighbor, the guy around the block, that's your friend. And now you have to grow up through life and realize like you got to let these people go. And if you're going to move on, people are going to be behind you. But he's like a totally unique story where, that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
So
that's
I think
rare.
one of the hardest things for me in life was like leaving people behind in the beginning.
100%.
And like they almost made you feel bad. Like, I'm going somewhere. You're not encouraging me. You don't want to go with me. Like, fuck you. I got to go. You know what I mean? But they try to like drag you down like crabs in a bucket. Like, how did you deal with that in the beginning? Because I know when you were 19 in the garage doing
Yeah.
shit on the weekends, your boys were like, yo, you're not going to come out. You're like, no, I'm trying to hustle.
Oh, bro, I definitely skipped out on a lot of fun weekends, and just all the things that 19, 20, 21-year-olds are doing. I sacrificed a lot of time when I was younger. I think it just comes down to knowing where you're trying to go in life and what you're trying to accomplish. And you just need to weed out the people that are any kind of negative force in your life. So, if somebody doesn't really have high expectations for themselves, or they don't really have, any kind of aspiration to do anything positive, you kind of got to just let them go. Now, I do still keep in touch somewhat with some people from my childhood that might not be as hungry as me, or, they might not be an entrepreneur who wants to make 10, 20 million a year. They might have smaller goals for themselves. And that's completely fine. As long as they're good people, you know what I mean? And they have good intentions. I don't necessarily want to sit here and say, if you don't want to, do what I'm doing, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
But you got to try to, weed out the
balance it,
people that are no good. Like, obviously I used to hang out with people that, today they're really not doing much at all. And unfortunately I had to, let them go. But it's important to surround yourself with people that are, like I said, on your same wavelength. But cut out the people that are cancerous. Obviously.
Yeah, I always talk about don't throw the people in the garbage that aren't on the
Yeah.
same path as you.
Right.
If they encourage you, support you,
Especially if they're good
and then they're
people.
for a good friend of yours, and
Right.
like, hey, they're just not thinking the same. That's cool. Like they
Yep.
can still be in your life. They
Yep.
may not be an impactful part of your future,
Right.
but they can still be a part because they're a part of your past.
100%.
But we have to weed through people, and that's the hardest thing for a lot of people to do is throw out the trash, I say. Even though it's not trash and people aren't trash, it's like you got to get rid of a 0 to get a 1. You got to get rid of a 1 to get a 2. You got to get rid of, you know what I mean? Like that's the only way the surrounding works.
And also, as an entrepreneur, it takes a lot out of you. So, it's not easy to sit there and try to balance, and feed meaningless relationships with people from your past that really don't care to see you succeed, or they're not rooting for you, they're not on your team. So that alone, it takes energy. So it's energy's a important resource. So you can't really be putting energy into those people because it's not going to help you.
True.
Yeah, I love that as well. I think a lot of entrepreneurs will take that almost literally because this is so much jargon on social media. It's like if this person's not benefiting you, if they're not earning you money, or if they're not trying to earn this money, then you should cut them out of your life. I disagree with that, and I think we're all in the same consensus here. But they have to bring some kind of value, right? And you're not a father today, but if one of your friends is like the best father why would you get rid of that person? That's a
100%.
value, right? That's something that you could learn, and you said it best yourself. It's not necessarily on the same money train as you, but they have skills that they have acquired through being a father or a good husband that you might want to extract at some point.
Yeah,
and
those
that's
are
the value.
those are positive things that
You said
can
good people.
you
That's
can
perfect.
take from them. Yeah, if they're good people.
Perfect example is probably your employees. Some of your employees are probably pretty friendly with.
Yeah.
And maybe spend some time with. You're not going to ask them their opinion. You're not going to ask them about growth strategies. You're not going to talk to them about things that you're doing in business or things that you're masterminding. These are going to be other people, but they're still good people to spend time with. You probably got the same thing with guys that work
100%.
for you. You still want to spend time with them. You want to keep them close, because you know that they mean well.
Right.
But some people just don't think that way. They're not conditioned to think that way, but they're still very good people. If I think of some of the coolest people in my life, like that I've known for a long time, they're not business owners, and they do anything for me at any time, and I would do the same for them. But we're definitely not in the same wavelength. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's funny you
Right.
say that, actually. I have employees that I spitball vision ideas with, right? And in the very beginning, a lot of the times they were like, is that really going to work, right? Some of my right-hand men. And I said, I don't know. I think so. We're going to fucking try it, right? And it works. And then now the conversations is, what do you think about this idea? Because I think that that produces buy-in when you tell them your vision and you get them involved and you say, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
Like, you on board? And they're like, fuck yeah, we're on board. Like, let's do it. Now the conversation shifts to, I don't think that's going to work, but your track record's pretty good. Let's just try it.
Right.
And it's like, okay, great. Now they're willing to try things even if they're not 100% sure that they're willing to, that they're going to work, right? But I do have a question for you. That since that you started so young, right? Do you ever, or do you think that you'll ever have regret for not attending these parties or going out to the bar scene and doing all these things that you might have missed out on?
I would say no. I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely had fun growing up. Did I have as much fun as everyone else? Probably not, just because I was always focused on working and, growing this little business that I had. So, I mean, the way that I see it is like you can pick and choose where you want to have your fun in life. Obviously, there's a ton of people that just go crazy in their 20s and, they're partying all the time, doing all this extra stuff. But then once they hit, 30, 40, 50, they're struggling a little bit because they didn't really dedicate themselves to building a solid foundation. So the way that I always looked at it is like, I'm going to have fun in life, but I want to make sure that I put my priorities first. I mean, a big thing for me is like, I don't come from money. My family wasn't wealthy. I didn't, I wasn't struggling by any means, but like, I want to build a solid foundation. So, my future family and my future kids, I don't have kids now, but I obviously would love to have kids. I don't want them to struggle. So I focus on the future a little bit more, and I know that I'm going to be able to have fun later in life. So it's like you gotta sacrifice somewhere, you know. So if you're willing to grind out when you're younger and just build that solid foundation, it's gonna make your 30s, 40s, 50s a little smoother because now you're not, you know, sitting there like, fuck, I wasted all this time and I was just partying and doing bullshit and now I really gotta take life serious. So it's like you gotta figure out, you know, what's fun to you and what's important to you.
We kind of have a similar story. I'm a little older than you, 15 years older than you almost. But I started when I was 17.
Yeah.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like we would work, but we would still go to parties and go show up
Yeah.
to things, but we'd leave early because we knew what we had to do. We wouldn't get shit faced. We wouldn't be doing drugs. We wouldn't be doing shit because we understood that this wasn't our priority. But we would still show up. But we would get shit because maybe we didn't show up to a couple things because we knew the next day or that day we really had to get something done, and we would get shit for that.
Yep.
But when we look at the order of importance in our life, like we took it on early, what was important, what wasn't. We still showed face. We still did what we had to do, but we did have to sacrifice many things. So I think that what he lost and what I lost in my 18, 19, 20, 20-year-old life is getting shit-faced at the bar, blacking out, and getting dragged out by a bouncer. Like that didn't happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But we still went, still showed up, maybe drove our own car because we had to leave earlier. You know, did
100%.
something else besides being a fucking person who's going to be irresponsible because some of these people don't grow up till they're 25, 26 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like paying tax. I get it. Like, you know, actually one of the things that you said was be okay with delayed gratification on your form.
Yes. Sure.
Just came to me. So that's exactly what you're saying, right? You're going to pay the tax. It's either you could pay it now or you could pay it in your 50s.
Yeah, it's like you're gonna pay the price. You know, it's just like when do you want to pay it? It's easier to put in the work when you're younger and you don't really have as much responsibility, rather than waiting to when you're older. Now you're scrambling trying to get your shit together because you just wasted all this time. So that's always one thing that I, you know, was focused on. But like he was saying, I definitely had fun, but I was one of those people where like if I'm working or I got stuff going on, like I'll show up late to the party on a Friday or Saturday. I'll come later than everyone else. I won't stay as long as everyone else. I'm not getting shit faced. I'm going home so I can wake up the next day and you know I could function and take care of my priorities and do what I got to do. Like I was still, you know, out and about.
You're still active. But
Me and my
you're just not-
friends
you're
still
just
had a
not
ton of
major,
fun.
Yeah.
It's just I was, I guess, more responsible than most people. So I picked and choose, you know, when I had my fun.
What's next for Onyx? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Honestly, I would love to get to a point. Well, we're going to get to a point where we open up multiple locations. So right now we have one location. We're in Freehold. I would love to open up something in the North Jersey area just to kind of capture more of that New York City market. And then eventually I would love to open up something in Florida.
Got it. That's a vision. You know, I hear you talking and everything, and I see that, you know, you are a major part of your business, but I think that you have a well-oiled machine that you can literally train and duplicate. I think that, you know, franchising or even, you know, opening up multiple locations
Right.
and you being able to be an operator of that sort, because what you do is so unique and you got the right people filling the spots.
Right.
I think there's huge opportunity there. You have a lot of confidence. You're still young. You're not married. You don't have kids
Yeah.
yet. So you have so much opportunity in front of you.
Right.
And, you know, when you say what I'd like to do, know what I'm going to do. So you're already confident in knowing what your next steps are. So it's inevitable that it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that plays a really big role, being confident and like knowing that you can do something. Like before when you and I were talking, you're like, you know, where do you want to be? And I was like, well, I want to be here. You're like, no, you're going to be here. So you kind of have to speak things into existence. You know, you can't really be hesitant or say, like, I don't know if I can make this work, but like, I'm going to try. It's like, you got to have the mindset, like, it's possible. So I'm going to get this shit done.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's definitely helpful with, you know, growing a business and is just knowing that if it's possible and someone else has done it, so can you. It's just a matter of what steps you need to take and, you know, how long of a timeline, you know, you're going to give yourself to get this stuff done.
Right.
But I mean, I would say like I said, we're going to get it done. It's just a little tricky with this business because obviously I can't be in multiple places at once. So right now what I'm working on is being, so to say, like less working in the business, more working on the business.
Powerful, yep.
Right. So obviously, like I said, I'm always in the shop. I'm always working on stuff, but that's because I love doing this stuff. Like I actually genuinely like working on cars. That's why, like when I have free time, you know, Sunday or Saturday morning, if I have nothing going on in my day, rather than just sitting home. Like if I have stuff in the shop that could get done, I'm just gonna go chill. I'm gonna throw on some music. I'm gonna work. I bring my dog to work with me. You know what I mean? We hang out. But it's 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 tough trying to get everything running to a T when you're not there.
But
So I think
you got to be okay with that, though.
right. You have you have to put your trust in everyone else and, you know, let go a little bit and let them do their thing.
You're perfect is different than everybody else is perfect. You know,
100%.
So
Yeah.
wrapping up this question, because I know you're getting deep into this.
Yeah.
I want to just spin it for a second because I
Yep.
think it's important. Why would people want to choose you, Onyx, versus everybody else? What makes you different?
I think really having a passion for cars and just being a perfectionist overall, as the leader of the company, just sets us apart because literally no matter what we're working on, whether you have a Toyota Camry or you have a Rolls Royce, like how we do one thing is how we do everything. And we're really consistent with the way that we do stuff. So
that.
it's like we value every customer and it's not like we're just here just to take your money. Like we want to give you value and we want you to feel like you're receiving more than you're giving. So
Oh, like the other wrap shop in Freehold that bought a company to show up a front, right, and went out of business.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people get into this business just for money.
Yeah.
But, you know, we really have a passion for cars and, you know, we want things to be, you know, on point and we want all of our customers to be happy and we want to take stuff to the next level. So we're not just your regular cookie cutter shop that's, you know, just going to try to charge you as much as possible and do the least as possible. It's like we really care about these cars and we really care about our clients.
I think it's unique because my friend, you know what shop I'm talking about. My friend used to own that shop, and then he had to sell it for obvious reasons.
Yep.
And then when you see the new guy who bought it, like sitting in his office, flashing himself, taking pictures of himself with his shirt off, and you know, thinking he's high gamut, you know, but it was a front for what he was doing on the outside.
Right.
But he knew nothing about the business.
Yeah.
So when you know nothing about the business, you have no passion about the business, you just buy it because you think it's a money machine. Ultimately, everything falls apart.
Well, that's another problem is like certain people get into certain industries just because they think that they can make a lot of money. It's like you're there for the wrong reason. So it's not really going to work out the way that you expect. You know, you got to actually like what you're doing and enjoy what you're doing. And I think customers are going to gravitate to you if you actually have a passion for what you're doing rather than you're just there, like you said, like this guy.
I mean, I didn't see an obnoxious rap on your car outside.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely nothing crazy.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's funny because I just listened to a podcast, which I don't necessarily agree with, but the title is "Fuck Your Passion," and it's all about business mindset, marketing, so on and so
That's
forth.
a unique perspective.
It very much is, and it wasn't exactly speaking to what you're saying because clearly that's working for you, right? You could hear it in your voice, you could see it in your product. I know people before we even met today. Several people have mentioned your name before, so it's pretty cool to actually meet you.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of people saw. I've never heard a bad thing about Onyx yet.
Thank you.
And
We'll
I
try
don't
keep it
expect
that
to.
way.
Now that I get to meet you, I
Yeah.
see why. It makes sense.
Yeah, humble dude.
So your passion is your prosperity. So I do believe, but on the other side, there are some people that could do do great things even if they're just looking to make money, right? But they have to have some set of skills or people in place that have those skills that they don't have. You know, if you have customer service, I mean, your customer service is probably top notch. Just talking to you, I could tell. Someone calls it a problem, you say,
important.
I'm going to fix it.
That's important.
And that's pretty much it.
But that's also another thing that I let people know is like, if you're looking to have certain work done to your car and, you know, you're debating going here or there, it's just like, we're the shop that if you ever have a problem, like you can call me at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock. I'm going to answer. If you have an issue, I'm going to do whatever I can to help you. You know what I mean? So like you said, customer service is very important. A lot of people overlook that with small businesses, but that's one of the things that sets us apart from other people is like, I've never turned down somebody who needed help or had an issue with something that we've done for them. And said, "Hey, sorry, I can't help you," or just go somewhere else. You already paid the bill, so I'm not dealing with it. It's just like I'm the complete opposite. Like I want to help. If you're coming to our business and you're spending your hard-earned money with us, you know we want to do everything that we can just to make sure that you're, you know, happy and satisfied and you don't have any issues. And if you do, we'll fix it to the best of our ability.
Yeah, you offer a custom service, and that comes with custom customer service as well.
100%.
You seem like super level-headed, cool dude. Like everything's fine.
I try.
Any issues that come across, we can handle them, which I love, and I know for sure you're gonna do great things in that goal we spoke about earlier. You're definitely gonna hit it. But my question is, when you lay your head on the pillow at night, what keeps you up at night?
The future.
Okay.
I don't really dwell too much on the past, but the future keeps me up. You know,
So like aspirations, goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't wait to get there.
What's my personal life and business life look like next year and 5 years and 10 years? So I'm just always thinking like I try to stay present, obviously. I try to, live in the moment and just do what I can. It's like the little stuff day by day just compounds. And that's how you get further and further by doing the little tasks. But I do focus a lot on the future and, where we could be if, we just keep going and just keep putting in the work and what's possible. Because obviously there's people that are running $100 million companies, you know what I mean? So nothing's impossible. It's just, I think it's just the aspiration, like you said, of just.
He's got no wife, man, no kids.
This is a tie, yeah.
His worry is very, very low right now.
Yeah, I mean, thank God that I don't have, a family that. Well, I don't want to say I don't have a family that depends on me because I would love to have a family, but I'm at the point of my life where I can afford to just focus on, just business and myself. I do have a girlfriend, so obviously, we care
Do
for
life
each other.
together,
Yeah,
yeah.
we do life together, but I have a lot of energy to focus on my business and my goals right now, which is cool.
I think that's super important. So
Yeah.
I think it was awesome having you out here today. I love your
Thank you.
ambition. You're young, you're driven. I love young entrepreneurs. And I still say young because you're almost 30, but you know what I mean? I'm in my 40s. He's almost 30,
Right.
so you guys are both young. He's in his 30s. So where can people find you?
You can find us on Instagram at OnyxNJ. Our website is onyxnj.com. We're located in Freehold.
Instagram, Facebook.
Instagram at OnyxNJ, Facebook OnyxNJ. Pretty much everything across the board.
Cool. All right, we'll have all your tags in the caption on
Yeah.
YouTube, and we really appreciate you coming out here today.
I appreciate
It's
you
been a
guys
pleasure.
having me. It was a nice chat.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you're not following us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, go ahead and do so.
Please subscribe.